In the second video of our cartoon Octopus series, we will do the texture painting. If you missed the first video, no problem, in the video description you will find a download link of this blend file, so you will be able to follow this tutorial. In the blend file you will find the sculpted model and the remeshed model. The low poly model looks similar to the original model, but with better topology in regard to edge flow and animation. In case you want to continue with your own model, you can do the retopology manually or with a remesh program like Instant Mesh. First we need to UV unwrap the model. I hide the high poly octopus and switch to edge select mode. I select some edge loops and define seams where Blender can cut the surface and project the single parts onto a plane. You create the seams with U and mark seam. The seams are just a suggestion. You can define your own seams, but it fits the model and produce minimal stretching. Later in UV image editor, I will show you the stretching of a UV unwrapping. In face select mode, we select everything with A and press U unwrap. In the lower window, I switch to UV editor and activate the display of stretching. You see only blue and light blue faces. This looks good. In case the islands are too close, you can execute peg islands with a margin of 0.005. Blender redistributes the islands with a margin. A slightly greater margin helps avoiding artifacts in texture painting later on. First we need to transfer detailed surface information to our low poly model. Create a new material for the low poly model and add an image texture node. Create a new 4K texture, Octopus normal, and deactivate the alpha channel. Switch to cycles to enable the baking menu. The bake type must be normal, activate select to active, and the extrusion value should be 0.05. Make sure the texture node is selected and the high poly and low poly model are both active in viewport and render mode. Select the high poly model, then control select the low poly and click on bake. After a few seconds the baking should be finished and we can check the results in the image editor. The first try looks good and we can save the image. Blender does not save the file automatically. In case you get some artifacts, you must play around with the extrusion value. In shader editor, switch the color space to non-color and we add a normal map node. Connect the image texture to the normal map and the normal map with the normal input of the principal BSDF. In render view, we see the details have been transferred to the low poly model. For texture painting, I copied the hex codes of the colors into the text editor and uploaded a txt file with the codes into the directory of the blend files. You can copy the values from this file. Switch to Texture Paint tab and create another 4K texture, Octopus color, with the default color pink. Switch the entry from Octopus normal to single image and select Octopus color. Now the octopus should have a pink color. Before we can start, we need to define our color palette. Click New and name your color palette. Type the hex code from the txt file and click on plus icon to add the color. Later we can switch easily between the colors as often as we need to. Now we can start painting. I painted the bottom of the arms and the center with light red, the inner mouth in dark red, and the lips in dark purple. When I worked on the bottom and the mouth, I could activate Symmetry X. Don't forget to save the image once in a while. Later I deactivate the symmetry and distributed the points randomly in various sizes. When you paint the dots, you can switch the fall off to sphere to have a sharper fall off. Also make sure the surface of a model is perpendicular to the view when you paint the dots, otherwise you get distortions. In the material for the low poly mesh, we add another texture node and select the Octopus color texture. Connect the color with the principal BSDF. Let's check the material in viewport and show the eyes and the suction cups. In the material for the pupil, I chose to set the color to almost black, decrease the roughness and increase the metallic value a little bit. I add another material for the iris and assign the material to the outer loop around the pupil. The gradient texture in the mode spherical creates a fall off to the outside. Notice the mapping node uses the UV coordinates and shifts X and Y to -0.5. The fall off controls the factor in the mix shader node. The white of the eye is a light red and goes into the first input. The second input is the principal BSDF with the purple color. You can find the hex code in the color.txt file. I used project from view for the face loop and place it in the center in the UV image editor. For the suction cup, I used the same color as for the bottom of the model. In the center of each cup, I painted a circle in dark purple. And that's it for the texture painting, and I see you in the rigging and animation tutorial.